At the same time, I'm open. If evidence were to surface that met that bar, and that's really, we have to remember we're talking about the bar of science, then okay, there we go, let's study it. But I just have not seen enough to push me over the edge.
Yeah, no, I agree with you entirely. Let's continue to study the phenomenon. Certainly take measurements. Certainly, everybody keep their cell phones handy to to photograph for any UAPs and collect evidence and so on. I absolutely don't believe in any governmental conspiracy. That to me is just crazy thinking. Because look, such conspiracy would have to go through probably about 10 presidential administrations, that it would have to be international in scope because presumably UAPs are not just an American phenomenon. Can you even imagine Donald Trump, whether you vote for him or against him? Do you believe that he would have kept it secret from the public? Can you imagine all the thousands of people throughout the or three generations of UAP secret holders who would know this and not one of them ever reveal it, even on their deathbed or in a leaked package to the New York Times? No, there's no conspiracy out there. It's there's simply just a lack of evidence.
There is certainly conspiracy within the U.S. government to spend money unwisely. That that's about all we ever find there. But who knows? I mean, these situations can change on a dime, and we all learn something new. Now, there has been within the history of SETI a number of interesting signals, enigmatic ones, but most well known is the WOW signal. And one of the hallmarks of the WOW signal was that it was very strong, 30 sigma detection at the Big Ear telescope. And it was where SETI astronomers sometimes say, well, we need a frequency to look at, so let's look at the hydrogen line where neutral hydrogen emits radiation. And lo and behold, we see it. We see the strong signal. And it never repeats. Nothing we can do with it other than say, that was interesting. But do you think that a signal like that was perhaps more likely to be close than distant?
Yes. Well, let me make 2 points on that. One is that there have been very few follow-up studies of the WOW coordinates. There have been far fewer than people seem to imagine, that we've gone back and back and back and never seen anything again. Actually, there hasn't been that much. People have gone back and looked at it, but for 10 minutes here or an hour there, not persistently. But what no one has done is simply regarded as an object in our own solar system that was in transit at that point. So I would want to ask the question immediately, what else was in that field of view at that particular time? Was there an asteroid in that field of view? And if so, where's that asteroid now? That's where you want to look, not in the coordinates of the WOW system itself, but in the coordinates of wherever the asteroid might be today. But it also tells me two things about the standard paradigm of SETI, which is observing stars. The typical paradigm is you observe a star for 10 minutes and then you move on to the next star and then move on to the next star and so forth. One of the big problems with that is follow-up. If analysis is done in real time, which is rare, then you've got to have another telescope on call to immediately confirm the observation. But much, much, much better would be to have another telescope that is in more or less the same longitude, but a different latitude, to be observing in tandem. No telescope should be looking at stars individually. They should be doing it at least in pairs, so that the second telescope can always confirm the first telescope. Can you imagine if Arecibo at the same time as the Big Ear was looking at the same WOW coordinates and saw the same thing? Then bingo, we'd all be popping the champagne and we'd have ourselves a confirmed detection. So to me, the idea of using just one telescope at a time is absolute folly. Now, however, most SETI is done offline, that is after the fact, and this is what happened at Ohio. It was days later or whatever that somebody looked at the printout. Well, immediately what you should be doing is assuming a signal is in the foreground and not the background. You can observe, okay, in the background, but you should now not just ask yourself, as I did, is whether there was an asteroid in the field of view. But assume now that it was just a free orbiting UAP or probe. What you need to do is then slew the telescope in a spiral around the spot of the original observation and just keep spiraling outwards because you don't know what the orbital characteristics of the probe were, so you don't know in which direction it would be going. So the only way to determine it is to make a spiral around it and go as far out as possible. So that's my beef, if you will, with the WOW signal. Nobody confirmed it. Nobody was there with the second telescope, and nobody asked the question, what else was in that field of view at that time, and nobody slewed the telescope in a spiral. So a lost opportunity. Let's move on.
Yeah, unfortunately, that telescope wasn't even capable of it. It was pretty well fixed. Yeah.
No, it wasn't. That telescope would not have been capable of it, but another telescope, the second telescope, might have been able to. Yeah.